I'll tell you straight. If you'd told me last month that a barefoot kid would walk up to my $1,000,000 home, point to the coffin of my newborn son and whisper, "Your baby is still alive," I'd have laughed. Not because it's funny, but because when your life breaks, sometimes laughter is the only sound left that doesn't hurt. But that's exactly what happened. And I swear, in a world full of noise and numb hearts, that quiet little boy shook the earth beneath my feet. Let me take you back to the moment my world cracked open. It was early. Too early for anything good. The Porter house, big, proud, and hollow, stood in silence. You know that kind of silence that isn't peace but pressure? The kind that sits on your chest like a weight. That's the kind of morning it was. The sun was out, pretending it was just another day. But nothing was normal. Nothing was real. I was on the porch, wearing black dress pants and a shirt that didn't fit right anymore. Nothing fit after Clara died. Not the clothes. Not the house. Not the world. I remember how the wood under me creaked when I sat. I didn't flinch. Let it break. Let it fall. Nothing mattered. Everything hurt, and nothing did. There it was, that tiny white coffin, sitting in the sun like a ghost everyone could see, small enough to hold a doll, big enough to hold every piece of my heart. They said it was tradition to let the father sit with the body one last time, but tradition doesn't tell you what to do. When your heart is screaming, but your voice won't work. I looked at the coffin like it might vanish if I stared hard enough, but it didn't. It stayed, mocking, still, cold. Clara and I, we tried. God knows we tried. IVF, surgeries, hopes rising and falling like the stock market. 2 miscarriages. 1 almost made it to 6 months. And then Benjamin, our miracle. The 3rd time the doctors said, "This one looks strong." I wanted to believe them, I did. So did Clara. She painted the nursery. She sang lullabies with her hand on her stomach. She bought little socks and tiny books and whispered to the bump every night like he was already here. We were finally breathing again, planning birthdays, imagining his first steps. I even carved a little wooden plane for him. Still sits on the shelf, unflown, unused. And then the day came. Hospitals smell like bleach and broken promises. I remember Clara's grip as they wheeled her in. "I'm scared," she said. "I've got you," I whispered. She smiled. The last time. The next few hours are a blur of beeps and shouts and blood and silence. Then the doctor's voice, calm and heavy. "I'm sorry, Mr. Porter. Your wife didn't make it. Your son was born, but only for a few moments." That sentence should be illegal. Too much grief in too few words. Everything after that felt like white noise. The world went on, stupidly, heartlessly. People hugged me like that would fix it. Neighbors brought casseroles, like food could fill the space. Clara and Benjamin left behind. I let them think I was okay. I signed the forms. I chose a coffin. Told me I could bring the baby home for a short time. A goodbye visitation. I hated that phrase, as if goodbyes had a schedule. So I brought him home, to the porch Clara loved, where she used to sing in the evenings, barefoot, wine in hand, belly round with dreams. I set the coffin where she used to sit. I sat next to it. And I waited for something. For nothing. I think I was hoping she'd show up somehow, even as a ghost, even angry. Instead, I got something else. He came from nowhere. I didn't hear a car. Didn't hear footsteps. Just noticed him. A barefoot boy, maybe 7 or 8. Black, thin, shirt too big, jeans torn, arms scratched. He stood at the edge of the driveway like the world had ended and only he noticed, eyes fixed on the coffin. I remember thinking, probably just curious, maybe hungry, maybe lost. Then he stepped closer. Slow, cautious, like someone approaching a sleeping lion. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking at Benjamin. Then he whispered it. "Mister, your baby's alive." At first I didn't move. Didn't even blink. I thought grief had made me hallucinate. Made me dream up a voice just to hear something other than my own pain. But he said it again. Clearer this time. He's breathing. I saw him move. There was no hesitation in his eyes. No fear. Just certainty. And something about that certainty cracked through the fog in my mind like a lightning bolt. I jumped. Fell to my knees beside the coffin. Hands trembling like paper in the wind. Pulled the blanket back, and there it was. The tiniest rise and fall. A breath, real, alive. I screamed. Not a word, just a raw, jagged sound that tore through the quiet and sent birds flying from the trees. I touched his cheek. Warm. I touched his chest. Moving. Not imagination. Not wishful thinking. Life. My knees gave out. I collapsed beside the coffin, holding onto the edge like it would float me to safety. Then I turned. That boy was still standing there, not scared. Not smug. Just watching. I stumbled toward him. Grabbed his shoulders. Stay here. Don't move. I don't even know if he nodded. I just ran for my phone. Dialed emergency. I don't care what the paper says. My baby is alive. You hear me? Alive! Sirens howled in the distance. Neighbors poured out. Whispers turned into shouting. Paramedics flooded the porch. Equipment clicked open. Oxygen tubes? IV bags. Yells of clear a path. I stood aside, clutching Benjamin's hand, repeating, Please, please, hang on. And in the chaos, one thought burned in my brain. That boy saw it. That boy saved him. They say angels don't walk this earth, but maybe they just walk it barefoot. Benjamin was alive. Those words kept repeating in my head as I sat in the hospital waiting room, knuckles white from gripping the edge of my chair. Machines beeped. Nurses shouted. Doctors in white coats floated by like ghosts, and through it all I sat frozen, somewhere between a prayer and a breakdown. I kept my eyes on the double doors that led into the neonatal intensive. Kareunit Niku, half expecting them to open and a doctor to come out shaking his head, like the miracle had been too much to ask for. But I had seen it. That breath, that tiny flutter, that spark, and behind it, a boy no one saw coming. Eli, when the chaos had begun, I left him behind on the porch. He didn't flinch when the ambulance pulled up, didn't run when strangers swarmed the house. He just sat quietly on those old wooden steps like he belonged, there more than I did. The hospital had taken Benjamin in. They let me ride in the back of the ambulance. But the second we pulled away, all I could think was, I left him. As soon as I could, I rushed back. The house was still. A few neighbors stood outside murmuring. A police cruiser sat across the street, but no one had approached Eli. He was still sitting where I left him, his hands folded in his lap, picking at a loose thread on his shirt. Waiting. I knelt beside him. What's your name? I asked again. He looked up slowly like I had woken him from something deeper than sleep. Eli, he said. I took him inside. No one objected. No one was paying attention to him anyway. That's the thing about kids like Eli. They slip through the cracks. Through the system. Through life. He didn't ask for anything. Not food. Not water. Not safety. It was as if he didn't know he was allowed to. Where's your family, Eli? He didn't answer. He sat at the edge of the couch like he wasn't sure if he'd get yelled at for being comfortable. I brought him water. He stared at it a long time before drinking, like it might be a trick. Do you have a place to sleep tonight? A shrug. That shrug. It broke me more than the funeral. I called social services. I had to. It's what you do, right? But as I stood by the window, listening to the hold music while Eli traced patterns on the carpet with his finger, something in me started to ache. This boy had just saved my son, and the thought of him being dropped off at some shelter or shuffled through more foster homes, or worse, disappearing again, made my stomach twist. When the voice came on the line, I hung up. No hesitation, I turned back to Eli. You can stay here tonight, I said. He looked up surprised, almost scared. I'll get you clean clothes, something to eat, and we'll figure things out tomorrow. He nodded. Still didn't smile, not yet. That night, I gave Eli his first hot meal in what felt like a long time. He didn't gobble it. He ate slow, measured, like someone who'd been punished before for eating too much. I found an old pair of pajamas that nearly fit, and after a warm bath, I led him to the guest room. He stood in the doorway. This mine? I smiled. For now, yep. He lay down carefully, like he might break the sheets, and before I left the room, I heard him whisper, night. The next morning, I returned to the hospital. Eli insisted on coming. I didn't argue. Benjamin was in an incubator, tubes and wires surrounding him like a web, but he was breathing. Dr. Adams met us with a smile, the kind that doesn't come easy in hospitals. He's doing well. Weak but strong, if that makes sense. It did. I held Benjamin in my arms, skin to skin. His heartbeat was faint but steady. And behind me, Eli stood quiet, eyes locked on the baby, not scared, not uncomfortable, almost protective. The days that followed were filled with phone calls, medical forms, and recovery. But something unexpected happened too. Eli stayed. I didn't mean to keep him at first, but he didn't want to leave. And I didn't want him to. He helped with dishes, carried groceries, sat beside Benjamin's crib like a silent bodyguard. Social workers came eventually, asked questions. I told them everything, and when I told them I wanted to be his guardian, they hesitated. He's been through a lot, they said. You don't know his history. No, I said, but I know what he saved. I know who he is. Adoption is a process. It's messy, slow, filled with court dates and psychological evaluations. But through it all, Eli stayed. He started smiling, and just a little. Started asking questions. Started calling Benjamin Ben. One night, as I was tucking him in, he whispered, "You gonna keep me?" I said, "If you'll let me." And he nodded. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I was worried, but because the house finally felt alive again. The day it became official, I signed the adoption papers with tears in my eyes. Eli Porter, my son. Benjamin was home by then, healthy, growing, loud. His laugh, God, that laugh. It filled the rooms Clara left behind. We had birthdays. We had bedtime stories. We had 3 toothbrushes in the holder instead of 1. One night, Eli climbed into bed beside me while I held Benjamin. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. We were home. Sometimes I sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and watch Eli play in the yard with his little brother, and I think about that day, that boy, that whisper, that moment that changed everything. People ask me sometimes, "Do you believe in miracles?" And I say, I believe in people who see what others don't. So tell me, was it fate? Was it luck? Was it a miracle? Or was it just one invisible child, finally being seen at exactly the right time? If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it, and comment below. What would you have done? Would you trust a stranger's voice, even when the world already told you goodbye? Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can bring someone or something back to life.